Have you ever fallen in love with the wrong person and known it from the very first second? Not after. Not when you got caught. Not when everything exploded. From the beginning. That knot in your stomach. That inner voice whispering, don't do it. And still you go. Because I did. And this is my confession. I walked into that university believing my life was just starting. I had that energy you only have in your 20s. Hungry for the world, for experiences, for eyes that confirm you exist. I wanted someone to see me. Not as a student. Not as a daughter. Not as potential. As a woman. And he saw me. It wasn't immediate. Or at least that's what I like to think. The first time I noticed him was in class, explaining something I don't even remember. Everyone was writing. I was watching him. Not for what he was saying but how he was saying it. Calm. Certain. That kind of quiet confidence that lowers your guard without you noticing. When he asked me a question, it felt like he looked at me a second too long. It wasn't obscene. It wasn't obvious. It was worse. It was intimate. Like he already knew me. I left that class with my skin buzzing. I don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't pure excitement. It was shame mixed with thrill. Something forbidden that hadn't happened yet, but was already breathing in the air. And that hooks you. Because the forbidden doesn't start with touch. Starts in imagination. The messages began weeks later. Academic at first. Comments on assignments. Corrections. Congratulations. Nothing anyone could point at as wrong. But the tone shifted. It wasn't a sentence. It was a rhythm. Late night replies. Emojis that weren't professional. The have you eaten? That had nothing to do with class. And I answered. I always answered. Not because I was naive. I won't lie to myself. I knew. I knew exactly where the conversation was leaning. But there was something addictive about feeling chosen. Out of dozens of students, me. That's the sweetest poison there is. Feeling special when in reality you're a secret. The first time we met off campus, I invented 1,000 excuses. For my friends, my family, myself. It's for the project, I said. We're just talking. Sure. We sat in a cafe far from the university. He arrived early. He hugged me a second longer than appropriate. That second changed everything. Because in that moment we weren't professor and student. We were two people crossing a line. And once you cross the first one, the rest feel easier. We talked about music, childhood, failures. He told me personal things. Too personal. I told him mine. We laughed. I felt grown. Validated. Seen. And at some point the silence grew heavy. Not awkward. Dangerous. His hand brushed mine. I didn't pull away. I didn't look at him. I didn't breathe. The world shrank into that single point of contact. I could have left then. I should have left then. I didn't. I won't describe physical details. That's not what matters. What matters is what broke inside me when I decided to stay. When I chose emotion over conscience. The first time I kissed him I felt euphoria. And guilt at the same time. A mix that lifts you and drowns you in the same heartbeat. I left shaking. Not from fear. From intensity. I got home and looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself. And still, I wanted more. That's what no one tells you about betrayal. It's not just desire. It's identity. You start becoming someone who lives in compartments. One version of you in public. Another in secret. And the secret always wins. The following months were a roller coaster. Hidden messages. Short encounters. Repeated excuses until they sound natural. I walked around with my heart racing all the time. Not from love. From fear. Fear of being discovered. Fear of losing him. Fear of losing myself. Because I no longer knew who I was without that story. My friends noticed the change. You're distant, they said. I smiled. Lied. I became an expert liar. It's terrifying. How fast you learn when you have something to protect. And I protected him. Him who had a full life outside of me. Colleagues. Reputation. An intact future. I was the one risking everything. And still, I defended him. The betrayal wasn't just toward others. It was toward me. Every time I waited for a message that didn't come. Every time I canceled plans in case he called. Every time I accepted crumbs disguised as love. That's where the real wound lived. It wasn't the age gap. It wasn't the power imbalance. It was the inequality. I needed him more than he needed me. And that destroys you quietly. The ending wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No public scenes. Worse, it was cold. One day he simply said we had to stop. That it was dangerous. That it could affect his career. His career. He didn't say our story. He didn't say us. He said his career. And in that instant I understood something brutal. I was always a calculated risk. An affair with an expiration date. I cried, but not in front of him. I nodded. Pretended maturity. Said I understood. Walked away on borrowed dignity. And collapsed in the university bathroom like the world had emptied out. Because in a way it had. I had built months of my life around a secret that no longer existed. I was left without a story. Without a role. Without an excuse. Just me. And the echo of my decisions. The days after were the longest I remember. I went to class and watched him act normal. Professional. Untouchable. I sat in the back, invisible. No one knew. No one suspected. That's the punishment of secrecy. You suffer alone. I couldn't tell anyone without exposing myself. Without exposing him. I swallowed the pain until it turned physical. I lost appetite. Sleep. Focus. I became a shadow of the girl who entered that university hungry for life. I learned something ugly. Passion can feel like life, but it can drain it too. Time passed. Not fast. It never moves fast when you're healing, but it moves. I rebuilt myself in small things. Went out with friends again. Studied without checking my phone every 5 minutes. Slept without waiting for messages. And one day, without ceremony, I stopped thinking about him when I woke up. It wasn't a heroic victory. It was a breath. But it was mine. I tell this now not to romanticize it. It wasn't a great love story. It was a dependency wrapped in passion. And yes, there were beautiful moments. I won't deny that. Memory isn't honest if it only paints in black. But the cost was too high. I betrayed myself to feel desired. I lied to sustain a fantasy. I lost myself trying to be special to someone who couldn't choose me in the light. And no one deserves to live in the shadow of their own life. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in it, if you're in a story that only exists behind closed doors, I say this with care, not judgment. Emotion isn't always love. Secrecy isn't intimacy. Intensity isn't connection. Sometimes it's hunger. Sometimes it's emptiness. Sometimes it's a wound looking for validation. And wounds don't heal by hiding in the wrong arms. I'm not going to tell you you'll never feel temptation. We're human. We look. We want. We fail. But there are choices that don't just break rules, they break you inside. Infidelity isn't adventure. It's emotional debt. Someone always pays. Sometimes everyone. And the highest price is paid by the person who loses themselves in the process. I paid it. I'm still paying in small scars that appear when I least expect them. But I gained something too: clarity. I know myself better. I know how far I can fall. And how far I can rise. And strangely, that's power. If I could talk to the girl I was, I wouldn't insult her. I wouldn't call her stupid. I'd hug her. I'd say, I understand why you did it. You wanted to feel loved. But not at any cost. Never at any cost. Because love that requires you to hide isn't love. It's a cage. And no one should live grateful inside a cage. I'll end this confession with something simple. Not perfect. Not poetic. Real. Don't be unfaithful. Not because society says so. Not because of morality. Don't do it because it fragments you. It turns you into broken versions of yourself. And then you're the one left gathering pieces no one else sees. Desire passes. Guilt stays. And peace, that takes time to get back. Be careful with stories that shine too brightly in the dark. Sometimes they're not light. They're fire. And fire always collects its debt.